Good afternoon. Myself, Dr. Saurabh Shah, Associate Professor, Orthopedics, Spine Unit. So, this is regarding only orthopedic procedures and protocols. So, for non-emergency cases, we usually try to avoid direct physical consultation of the patients, maintain distance with the patients, and if not utmost necessary, avoid doing the clinical tests on the patients. So nothing new, maintain physical distancing, use mask, and in OPD we try to avoid crowding and have a specific protocol of from where the patient enters the OPD and where he exits. So there not be crossing of the people face to face while coming inside or going outside of the OPD or OT or anywhere. So entry-exit pathways should be according to the regulations. All preoperative patients are to be tested for COVID-19 status a day prior to surgery. All elective procedures we try to avoid with due discussion with the patient regarding the non-emergent problem of the patient. So, and try to counsel them for the non-operative managements. Suppose a patient is of osteoarthritis and the problem is not very severe, we try to counsel them that to avoid surgery till this situation subsides. There are many non-operative methods, pharmacological, physiotherapy, orthosis, braces, so they can have that treatment till the situation improves. So only patients with emergent or urgent situations need to be handled. So what is emergency in orthopedics? As such, all things in orthopedics are quasi-emergency. Nothing is like immediate. So only patients who have, so protocol will be in emergency, in COVID OT, they are to be all emergency positive patients, they will have to be operated in COVID OT, that is designated separate COVID OT with all precautions. Semi-emergency will be investigated, patients will be, till they are considered to be fit and operated till as per protocol. Elective patients will have to be wait till they are negative and then operated. So what are emergency in orthopedics? Open fractures, fractures with vascular injuries and impending compartment. So not only this, in case of polytrauma patients, so damage control orthopedics is required in patients with multiple fractures, certain procedures to stabilize the fractures so that there is no further damage. Suppose there is a patient with head injury, with chest injury, with multiple fractures in the lower limb. So such patients will benefit from a short orthopedic procedure such as we apply external fixator to the lower limb in half an hour. A short procedure which will stabilize the limb, which will greatly improve the handling of the patient, shifting of the patient, nursing care of the patient, as well as prevent this fat embolism syndrome due to the movement at the fracture site. So semi-emergencies are closed fractures which require surgery, such as a fracture neck femur in a young patient. So we cannot delay surgery in that patient, because the more the movement at the fracture site, the more we delay the surgery in such a patient, it will increase the chances of vascular damage to the head of the femur. So that has to be immediately operated, because that is a young patient. And if there is if avascular necrosis happens in such a patient, he will be crippled for life with subsequent osteoarthritis of the hip. So there are certain fractures which need to be operated even though they are closed fractures. So there are most of the remaining things are elective in orthopedics and can wait till we are confirmed that patient is negative and we can safely operate the patient. Semi-emergent conditions, procedures can be deferred for a few weeks or months, but not more than 3 months. Elective procedures are which can be postponed by 3 months or more with mutual consent of the patient, such as I was already told, joint replacement surgeries, arthroscopy surgeries, even spine surgeries. Some of these, most of the degenerative cases in spine can be managed conservatively equally well. So only few things are also emergencies in spine, like cauda equina syndrome, or if it is a fracture spine with progressive neurology, or a tuberculosis spine with a progressive neurology. Apart from that, most of the degenerative spine patients can have a trial of conservative treatment methods. Nothing new in investigation part. Only if we suspect COVID-19, chest X-ray and CT. These are the examples of non-operative treatment methods for fractures. Then there are vast other methods which are mostly concern of orthopedics only. These are the examples of open fracture situations. It can be much worse than these situations, what is shown here. So these are all emergencies, because the wound needs to be addressed, the fracture has to be stabilized. If there is a vascular injury, that has to be treated. Compartment syndrome is an emergency. If not treated within time, patient will end up in muscle necrosis and permanent disability, or even loss of limb due to vascular compromise. So in case of emergency, we can do a rapid antigen test when the time is less. So such as, for example, major pelvic injuries with abdominal injuries or blunt trauma chest. When the intervention is to be done within an hour, when the patient has presented and he has to be treated within hours, we can do rapid antigen test. Consent form, nothing special. OT room algorithm is full. If it is a COVID positive patient, then fixed path has to be known, that patient from where and which door will be transported to the OT. First, there should be dedicated all OT equipment, such as OT trolleys, OT drums, OT instruments, and OT staff all are designated that who will handle the patient. The OT room has to be such, the patient transit to and from the COVID operative area must be quick as possible. There must be a predefined direct path. So these are all repetition. Of course, PP is to be worn, and the face mask, they already must have discussed. FFP1 is not effective, FFP2 and FFP3 is to be worn. Negative pressure room is desirable, but it is not available. All our OTs are positive pressure, have positive pressure air exchange. Only thing we can do is we can increase the rate of air exchange cycle, which is recommended to be more than 25 exchanges per hour. 1% sodium hypochlorite solution is recommended for disinfection of the surfaces. During operative procedures, minimum personnel should be inside the room, and 1 hour gap is to be given between two surgical procedures. We should plan to minimize the duration of the surgery so the exposure is less. The reusable accessories are cleaned and disinfected with sodium hypochlorite solution or other appropriate Sidex such as solutions as soon as the procedure is over. The personnel should enter the OR in a timely manner to minimize the exposure to infected patients. So wherever possible, regional anesthesia is preferred, because GA will entails generation of aerosol. So, but if inevitable, it has to be done, and if it is required, then OT, the laminar airflow or air conditioner is to be switched off, and only to be started after the induction of patient is given anesthesia or intubation has been done. The surgical team will only enter after the induction or intubation has been done and after 15 minutes after the patient has been anesthetized. Similarly, when the surgical procedure is over, the laminar airflow is to be switched off 20 minutes before the extubation. Post surgery, all equipments are cleaned with 1% sodium hypochlorite solution. OR doors must be kept closed. Supply material should be planned beforehand so that the OT nurse does not have to go outside or attendant does not have to go out to fetch the instruments or equipments. The devices that may sometimes be needed to be used, such as intraoperative ultrasound, if it is used, the surfaces must be covered with a sterile if possible and sanitized at the end of operation. Double pair of gloves at all times. In orthopedics, otherwise also we use double gloves always. So use of cautery is a aerosol generating procedure. There is smoke is generated, so we are try to avoid use of cautery. And if it is to be used, it is to be used as the lowest power setting possible. So as the surgery is done, so we minimize the creation of smoke while the surgery. So OT room algorithm is patient enters the operating room along with OT staff who checks the checklist. Then OT anesthesia team will enter. They will plan the anesthesia with GA or regional. They will shut off the AC. Then after is given, the surgical team will enter, do the surgery, follow the protocols of not using cautery, of minimizing the surgical time, of minimizing with minimal surgical team. And first to exit will be the surgical team, then the patient after anesthesia, then the anesthetic team, and finally the OT nurse will exit the OT room, followed by cleaning and disinfection, surface disinfection of the operating room. Following and after 1 hour of that surface disinfection, the OT may be again used for another COVID patient. All clinical documentations are to be done outside the OR and not inside the OR. Proper disposal of material is to be followed. PP must be removed and disposed outside the OR in a dedicated doffing areas, because otherwise you will carry COVID-laden aerosols or surface particles outside the designated area and may contaminate the non-COVID area. OR and surrounding donning doffing areas must be sanitized as soon as possible. After each procedure, all involved personnel should shower. I don't know how much it is, but after at the end of the day, it is generally usually recommended that you should have a shower. Recovery phase after surgery must be done in OR before transfer to the ward or ICU. So in practical, what we see is, I don't know, here it is written. Remove all PPEs in dedicated doffing areas. The removal method is also shown, because if you incorrectly remove if you doff the PPE kit in an incorrect manner, you will contaminate yourself with the COVID virus. There is a possibility. Also, the scrubs must be replaced after each procedure, following showering whenever possible. Now, what usual practice I see in our hospital is most of the doctors, they roam around in one scrub only whole day. I don't know whether you are washing those scrubs daily or not, or what procedure we are following, I don't know. But they must be replaced after each procedure or after possible exposure to a COVID area. Personnel responsible for transferring the patient away from the operating room must follow separate access routes. Linen to be handled and transported with care. Disposable laundry should be preferred. In orthopedics, we use disposable drapes. Try to avoid cotton linens, which are to be reused by washing, and we use disposable sterile gowns. So, it is all possible. Post-op care to be attended by surgeons, and we have a team in orthopedics which is posted always. Somebody is posted in COVID wards, so that person will take care of our post-op patients. Follow-up chest and chest, these are all in consultation with physician, as if when that advice we repeat CT chest or chest radiography, and repeat swabs are to be sent in case a emergency positive patient is operated, so that he can be transferred back to our routine ward. That's all, nothing special from general point of view. From orthopedic point of view, we try to avoid aerosol generating procedures, like we try to avoid using power drill or burr, electrical burr, which are high speed burrs which generate aerosol. We try to avoid cautery during surgery. And anesthetists, they will try to avoid GI anesthesia, but if it is required, they will give, of course. But if GI is to be given, then AC is to be shut off before giving the anesthesia, and after only to be switched on after the patient is intubated and the cuff is inflated, the cuff of the tube, and the AC is to be switched off before the patient is extubated. So we try to minimize the exposure to the surgeon, to the other people as much as possible. Thank you.